Was walking down the bustling streets of the city, feeling the weight of yet another exhausting business meeting. It had been a long day, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to witness. The cold wind cut through my expensive tailored suit as I reached the corner near a high-end restaurant. Just as I was about to step into my black Mercedes, my eyes caught sight of someone, that made my heart stop. A woman sat on the freezing pavement, a tattered coat wrapped around her thin frame. Her long, tangled hair fell over her face, and she held a small baby wrapped in a dirty blanket. A cardboard sign rested against her knee, *, please help. I have nothing left. *, my breath caught in my throat. It was her. Isha, the girl I had once loved with all my heart. The girl who had been my entire world before life tore us apart. But how? How had she ended up like this? A flood of emotions rushed through me, anger, sadness, disbelief. My fists clenched at my sides as I took a step closer. Would she even recognize me after all these years? I was no longer the boy from the small town. I had built an empire, climbed to the top. And now, seeing her like this, it didn't make sense. She looked up just then, her tired eyes locking onto mine, and in that moment, everything froze. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Recognition, shock, embarrassment, I saw it all flash across her face. And then she did something that shattered me. She lowered her gaze and turned away, as if she didn't want me to see her like this. As if she wanted to disappear. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I took another step forward, swallowing the lump in my throat. Isha, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She stiffened but didn't look up. The baby in her arms shifted slightly, letting out a small whimper. My heart clenched at the sight of the tiny, fragile thing pressed against her. I crouched down, ignoring the stares from passers-by. What happened to you? Finally, she lifted her head, her once bright blue eyes now dull and tired. Go away, Damien, she murmured, her voice barely audible. Hearing my name from her lips after all these years hit me like a punch to the gut. Not until you tell me what's going on, I insisted. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. You want to know what happened? Life happened. And it wasn't kind. That answer wasn't enough. I needed more. Isha, talk to me, I urged, my voice laced with something I hadn't felt in years, desperation. She hugged the baby closer, and for the first time, I noticed the fear in her eyes. Not just sadness or exhaustion, fear, who did this to you? I demanded, my jaw tightening. Her silence told me everything, and it filled me with rage. Is it him? I asked, my voice low and dangerous. Is it your husband? She flinched, and that was all the confirmation I needed. I had heard rumors back when we lost touch, whispers that she had married someone, a man who wasn't what he seemed. My blood ran cold. I clenched my fists, trying to control the storm brewing inside me. Did he do this to you? I pressed. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she shook her head. It doesn't matter, Damien. It's over. He's gone. Gone. I narrowed my eyes. What do you mean, gone? She swallowed hard. Dead. The word hung between us, thick with unspoken horrors. I studied her face, searching for the truth, but something told me this story was far from over. Whatever had happened to her, whatever had forced her to beg on the streets with her child, I was going to find out. I helped her to her feet before she could argue. Come with me, I said firmly. She hesitated. Damien, I can't. You can, I cut in. You're not staying out here another second. Her body trembled from the cold, and I saw the exhaustion weighing her down. But still, she hesitated. It's not just about me, she whispered, glancing at the baby in her arms. I can't risk putting her in danger. I looked at the tiny baby again, my mind racing. If her husband was dead, who was she afraid of? And then it hit me like a freight train. You're not running from the past, are you? I asked slowly. Her silence was deafening. She was running from someone else, someone worse. And now that I had found her, they would come looking. I took her hand, steady and firm. You're not alone anymore, Isha, I promised. She stared at me, uncertainty warring in her eyes. But this time, I wasn't letting go. No matter what it took, no matter who came for her, I would protect her, even if it meant burning everything down to do it. I led her to my car, shielding her and the baby from the harsh city cold. She hesitated before stepping in, her fingers tightening around the baby's fragile frame. "Damien, I shouldn't, you will," my voice left no room for argument. "I'm not letting you freeze out here." She exhaled shakily, her resistance wavering. Finally, she slid into the passenger seat, holding her baby close. I shut the door and walked around to the driver's side, gripping the wheel as I stared ahead. I wasn't sure what I was feeling: rage, protectiveness, guilt. Maybe all of them at once. The silence in the car was thick. She sat stiffly, watching the city blur past the window. I stole glances at her, my mind racing. She had been my first love, the girl I had planned a future with. And now, she was a shadow of the person she once was. I needed answers. "Where have you been all these years?" I asked, my voice calmer now. She looked down, stroking the baby's head. "Nowhere good." That answer wasn't good enough. "Tell me everything." She hesitated. "Why do you care?" My grip on the wheel tightened. "Because I should have been there." She let out a bitter laugh. "You couldn't have stopped it, Damien." "Stop what?" She shook her head. "Everything." That wasn't an answer, and we both knew it. But I also knew one thing for sure: whatever had happened to her, she wasn't telling me the worst of it. And I was going to find out, no matter what it took. We pulled up to my penthouse, and I opened the door for her. "I can't stay here," she murmured. "You can, and you will." She sighed but didn't fight me this time. Once inside, I handed her one of my warmest blankets. She wrapped it around her trembling frame, her lips slightly blue from the cold. The baby stirred, letting out a small, tired whimper. I watched as Isha gently hushed her, cradling her close. "Isha," I said carefully, "whose baby is she?" She flinched. I saw her fingers tighten protectively around the child. "Mine," she whispered. I swallowed. "His." Her expression darkened. "I thought he was different," she admitted. "I thought he loved me." A sharp pang shot through my chest. I had once thought I would be the one to spend forever with her. "Did he hurt you?" I asked, my voice barely controlled. She bit her lip, staring down at her baby. And then, finally, she said it. "He wasn't who I thought he was." Her words were quiet, but the pain behind them was deafening. I leaned forward, my fists clenching. "Did he hit you?" She exhaled, shaking her head. "Not at first." That was all I needed to hear. I got up, pacing the room, my hands in my hair. Rage burned through me, sharper than I had ever felt before. I should have been there. I should have protected her. But the worst part? I knew she was still hiding something. Her husband was dead, but she was still afraid, which meant something else was out there. And I had a sinking feeling I was about to find out exactly what. That night, Isha finally fell asleep, her baby curled up against her. I sat in my office, staring at my phone. Then it buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. A deep voice filled my ear. "You should have left her on the street." My entire body went cold. Before I could say anything, the line went dead. I slowly lowered the phone, my heart pounding. This wasn't over. Someone was still out there, and they weren't done with her yet. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dim light of my office, my mind racing. Someone was watching. Someone who didn't want Isha safe. Morning came too fast. I made a call. Find out everything about her husband, and whoever else was in his life. An hour later, I had the information. And it made my blood run cold. Her husband had worked for someone, a name I knew well. A man who didn't forgive. A man who didn't let loose ends walk away. And now that Isha was alone, they were coming for her. And for the first time in years, I was ready for war.